and sisters. It's a great joy for me to be here with many of you from the medical profession. Medicine, as has been used, is a way of healing. Generally, we've been taking medicine and using it to heal the body. If we look back at history, we as human beings have always been having one difficulty or another. And so we've always tried our very best to heal the body. And whether it was a battle in the old ages, whether a child just fell down as the child was walking, whether it was a sickness that came because the weather changed and got very cold, or some part of the body was not working well. It is very interesting that when you look at history and look at times which have passed by, we as human beings have tried to unravel the joys, the beauties, the nurturing effects that God has left in nature. And so if you were to think about how medicine has helped, you would know that maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, if someone was sick, then the medicine people of the time would give him roots of the tree, roots of the plants, things that they were familiar with, things that were abounding in the nature at that time. And then, as time went on, and as human beings started to develop more and more techniques by which the body could be healed, if you go to 100 or 200 years ago, you would find that doctors, as more chemical medicines came into being, started to give pills. So if you have a headache, you take aspirin, could be in any form. If you have other blood pressure, you take a certain kind of medicine. And then came the antibiotics. Whenever there was something which was very difficult to handle, then you started getting antibiotics, because they would be the ones which would kill the bad bacteria in the body, so that the disease which was coming from what the doctors think is bad bacteria would be killed, and the effects of the disease would be reversed. And then what is very interesting is today, as we look back in the last 10 years, there's so much awareness of going back to nature, having food which is organically grown, because we're all realizing that all the chemicals which have been there for the last 50 to 100 years are not that good for the body, and that's what the doctors are telling us today. And so the healing process has taken a whole circle. And today when you get sick or something not well with you or not feeling well, they say, go for the Ayurvedic treatment, go to a spa, go to nature, detoxify the body. Because there are too many toxins in the body. And what is detoxification? Be on water, be on natural things, so that the body can heal on itself. And so we've taken like a full circle to get back to the roots where we started. And when we start to think about healing the body, we know that we as human beings, as we have developed and as we've started to not only know more about the body, as we've enhanced our mental capabilities through the process of knowledge, through the process of learning, through the process of education, as we fine-tune ourselves, we find there are more and more techniques out there to deal with the mental wranglings and the mental illnesses that we have. As life goes on, we also find that as human beings, we interact. We interact with others. And as we interact with others, there are emotions. Emotions of being close, emotions of being separated, emotions of happiness, emotions of joy, and then emotions of pain or sorrow. And those emotions also have a tremendous effect on us. And so today, we also have psychiatrists and psychologists who help us deal with difficulties that we have in our day-to-day dealings with others. And so healing the body, healing the mind, and healing our emotions have been something that we have been focused on. And when we start to look at our life today, and as we live in this age which is technologically advanced, in which science has unraveled much about nature, in which we know much more today about this world, how it operates, what is happening in the physical world, in which information is so rampant, we find that as human beings, we still have many, many difficulties to deal with. It isn't as if we're living in a world which is peaceful. It isn't that all our technological advances have made life happier for us. It just seems like the more development there is, the more we are caught up in it. Gone are the times when families sit together to talk, because everyone wants to watch their own show, or is busy on the internet, or is doing one thing or another, or running here, or talking on the mobile phones. And so we find that science, which is supposed to make our life easier, actually has put in a spot where we have hardly any time to be able to focus on what is truly happening with us. And as we try to find ways and means of trying to take the difficult aspects of our life away, because whether it's a sickness of the body, whether it's a sickness in our emotions, whether it's an illness in our mental capabilities, all of them are painful. All of them bring sorrow into our life, all of them bring pain into our life. And so whether we take medicines coming out of trees or plants or chemicals, or we use techniques of being able to make our relationships better, or we use techniques of fine-tuning our mental capabilities so we are more efficient and more concentrated. Today we find that to help in each and every one of these areas, what basically has helped us know about our true self and of God is being used. Actually, it's only in the last 20, 25, 30 years where a lot of attention is given to our spiritual progress, to meditation, to sitting in silence, to sitting in stillness, and see what effects it has on the body, on our emotions, and on our mental capabilities. And what is very interesting, just recently, there was a research which had gone on for many years, and the result just came out very recently. Many people who had been sick, they were watched as to how the progress is, how they recover after an illness. And what is very interesting is that these people who had had major operations and major illnesses and major things to deal with, that as it was tracked as to how they recover, those people who meditated or who prayed at least once a week were recovering much, much faster than anyone else. And so the doctors started to do more research to find out why is it that if you meditate or you pray to God or you sit in silence and your attention is on God, that you heal faster. And they started to do more experiments. And one which just came out is very interesting. This is an experiment which was done on animals. And these were animals who were put under a lot of stress. And as they were put on a lot of stress, the cortisol levels started to go up. And as the cortisol levels start to go up, because whenever we're in stress, we have this fight or flight syndrome, or as the cortisol goes up, in the old days when you were faced with a calamity, then you either stood there and fight, and so your cortisol would go out of your body, or you would run away, and so the cortisol level would go up. But today, Because the stress and strain is not coming from any physical danger, it's coming from the way we live, our way of life, our interactions, our trying to do too many things in a short period of time, because it looks like so much is there that we need to do this and we need to do that and we need to do that. And as there are more things to do in less time, there's tremendous stress in the life of each and everyone. It is found that as cortisol increases in the body, which happens when there's more stress, the memory part of the body starts to shrink. As that starts to shrink, what happens, the effect on the body is that our capabilities of dealing with our day-to-day life gets to be less and less and less. And as that happens, it's a spiral which is trying to take us down. And so this part of the body, which is of the brain, which is memory related, is one that can be tracked. And so doctors and scientists are coming to the conclusion that the brain, which uses 10 times more energy than the rest of the part of the body, needs rest. And as we don't get the rest and as we don't get the sleep for the body, it doesn't have the chance to recover. And so when we have more stress and strain in our life, then our sleep patterns are broken. And when our sleep patterns are broken, then we are unable to give that rest to the brain which is needed for it to recover. Now, if we look at our lives, every day we sleep. Why? Because the body needs the rest. Most people sleep for between 5 to 8 hours, depending on your physical activities, your way of life. But if you don't sleep for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, you might be able to operate. But if you don't sleep for a week or a month, you're not going to be able to operate, because the body needs recharging. At our day-to-day activities, our brain waves are working between what are called 12 hertz to 20 hertz cycles per second is how our brain waves are working. As we have our day-to-day activities, as we're driving in traffic, as the stress gets more, our brain waves are working faster. And the faster they work, the more stress in our life, the more cortisol in our being, and when it's not getting out of the body, this is why one of the techniques that's talked about is to rest and let the cortisol just get out of the system by giving it an avenue to go out. And since we can get it out, it starts to create troubles. Whether it be blood pressure problems, whether it be heart problems, whether it be breathing problems, whether it be problems related with the abdomen, digestive problems. These are problems that start to compound because here's the body, it needs 5 to 8 hours of rest. We don't give it, so its level gets a little lower, and then we don't give it enough rest and get lower and lower and lower. And as the defenses in the body are low, disease starts to enter. Research is showing today that as we meditate, and meditation is a means by which we take our attention away from the world outside, away from our activities, away from everything else that is going on, and we sit in silence. We can sit in our homes, we can sit at our places of work, we can just sit any place. We need to still the body and to still the mind. And so when we do that, our brain waves can be taken down to 8 to 12 hertz or between 4 and 8 hertz. And as the brain waves go much lower, the stillness which is provided to the brain is so tremendous that just 1 hour of meditation, which is done properly, with the body resting and the mind resting, gives us that much recovery as 4 hours of sleep. Because we have gone into the state which is beyond what the sleep state is, which is beyond what the dream state is, because we've gone into a state where we've totally rested in the body and in the mind. And as that happens and our brain waves get to this theta state, or between even from 4 to 8, we can go back even deeper states of 0 to 4 cycles and get such a deep state of stillness that just a few hours of that calmness re-energizes us again. And as that happens, we find that as there's more stillness in the body, the strength to deal with our physical, our mental, and our emotional difficulties gets to be more and more in us. And this is why Sant Kripal Singh Ji Maharaj made this tremendous statement. He said, on spiritual health depends the health of the body and the mind. And he made this statement many, many years ago. And today, doctors are all getting to those solutions. Many hospitals all around the globe are now recommending meditation to deal with all kinds of difficulties. You find meditation rooms in the hospital, you find meditation rooms in the airports, you find meditation rooms in all kinds of places where people go and sit in stillness and relieve their difficulties. Research, which has been going on in the last 25 to 50 years on this subject, has collected so much data. There's articles in the Harvard Medical Journal, there are articles in the medical journals of all major countries talking about the health benefits of meditation. And as we start to learn the techniques of meditation, we realize that meditation is actually a medication for the body, for the mind, and for the soul. Because most illnesses in the body are coming from stresses and strains in the body, from a way of life, from the way we live, the environment we live in, what happens in our day-to-day activities. And then if we can fix the problem at the source, the solutions are much, much easier. You know, those of you who are in manufacturing, if you're manufacturing a product, it takes many iterations or many operations to get to the final product. Let's say you're making a gadget. So it might have some gears, it might have some plastics, it might have some steel parts, it might have some lights. And so you have to take one part and then you put another part on it and a third part and a fourth part on it, and you make the product. Now the problem is in the first part, and you never realize the problem till you get it to the final end, and then you test it and there's a problem, then you have to take all those parts away to fix the first part. But if you could fix that problem right there when it occurred, you would not have to waste all the energy to put the product together and then open it up. And so, as research is very loudly today telling us the benefits of meditation in all aspects of our life, then it makes sense that we add that to our day-to-day life. When we look at the lives of our forefathers, who lived many, many, many centuries ago, we find that the first thing that they did in the morning was to sit in silence. You know, whether we sit in silence and pray to God, whether we sit in silence and we meditate with a mantra which is given to us by a saint, as we sit in silence, is the process of sitting in silence which is going to make us more spiritually aware of ourselves.